At 5:17 in the morning, Paris was still half asleep when the engines of a single biplane broke the quiet over Le Bourget. The aircraft was called L'Oiseau Blanc, the White Bird. Its destination was New York. For 8 years, the Orteig Prize had waited, $25,000 to whoever could fly non-stop between Paris and New York. Several attempts had failed. Some pilots had died. By the spring of 1927, the Atlantic was no longer a blank space on the map, but it was still unforgiving. Charles Nungesser was not a dreamer chasing headlines. He was one of France's most decorated fighter aces from the First World War. His navigator, François Colly, had already completed demanding long-distance flights over open water. They were considered serious contenders, not gamblers. Their aircraft had been altered for distance. Extra fuel filled the fuselage. There was no radio equipment. Every kilogram mattered. Shortly after takeoff, the landing gear was dropped to reduce drag, a deliberate act that made return impossible. Once airborne, they were committed. Witnesses saw the White Bird pass over Etretat heading west. After that, the record dissolves into fragments. Reports emerged from Ireland of an aircraft heard overhead. Fishermen later spoke of engine noise beyond the coast. In North America, scattered accounts surfaced from Newfoundland and Maine. Distant engines, a low silhouette moving west. None could be verified. None could be disproved. New York waited that evening. Crowds gathered along the harbor. Newspapers prepared to announce that the Atlantic had been conquered from east to west. The hours passed. Nothing appeared. Search vessels moved out. French naval units combed coastal waters. Days stretched into weeks. No confirmed wreckage surfaced. No oil slick, no bodies. The ocean offered no explanation. 12 days later, another aircraft departed from New York. When Charles Lindbergh landed in Paris, he became the first to complete the non-stop crossing alone. History fixed itself around that success. The White Bird faded into uncertainty. In the decades that followed, small pieces of possibility surfaced. A landing gear fragment recovered off the French coast, renewed searches in North American forests, but nothing definitive. No confirmed crash site has ever been identified. Did they fall into the Atlantic within hours of departure? Did shifting winds push them north beyond their calculated course? Or did they reach land, only to vanish somewhere no one thought to look? There is no final transmission to analyze. No flight recorder, no last coordinates. The White Bird did not return. And it would not be the last time experience and preparation proved insufficient over open water. By 1935, long-distance flight was no longer experimental. Air routes stretched across continents. Imperial maps traced red lines through oceans and colonies. Aircraft were faster, engines more reliable, navigation more disciplined. Yet large portions of the world remained without witnesses. Charles Kingsford Smith had already secured his place in aviation history. In 1928, he completed the first trans-Pacific flight from the United States to Australia. His name carried weight across the British Empire. He was not attempting the impossible. He was refining what had already been achieved. In November 1935, he departed England in a Lockheed Altair named Lady Southern Cross. The flight was part of an effort to set a new speed record between England and Australia, a route he knew well. On November 8th, after leaving Allahabad in British India, he headed towards Singapore. The leg would carry him across the Bay of Bengal and the Andaman Sea, long stretches of water with few diversion points and limited emergency support. Early radio messages were routine, then the weather shifted. Later reports described deteriorating conditions over the Andaman Sea, storms, reduced visibility, unstable air. His final confirmed transmission indicated poor weather but no emergency. He continued on course. After that, contact ceased. Search operations began along projected routes. Ships and aircraft scanned waters between India, Burma, and the Malay Peninsula. Days turned into weeks. No confirmed debris was located. No verified wreckage surfaced. There were no crowds waiting at a harbor. No single moment of public realization. The disappearance unfolded quietly over shipping lanes and colonial waters where the horizon was uninterrupted. For decades, the sea yielded nothing conclusive. In 2009, A fisherman off the coast of Myanmar recovered part of a landing gear assembly believed by some researchers to correspond to the Lockheed Altair. The identification was debated. It was not definitive. No fuselage, no confirmed crash site, no remains were recovered. Most historians consider it likely that Kingsford Smith encountered severe weather and was forced down over open water. The Andaman Sea is vast. In 1935, search coordination was limited, and ocean currents disperse wreckage quickly. But likelihood is not resolution. He was experienced. The aircraft was capable, the route was familiar, and still, over certain waters, preparation could collapse into absence. By the mid-1930s, aviation had matured, yet there were skies where once a signal failed, nothing followed. In war, even more advanced aircraft would vanish without explanation. On the morning of July 31, 1944, a Lockheed P-38 Lightning lifted from Borgo Airfield in Corsica and turned north toward the coast of occupied France. The aircraft was a reconnaissance variant, unarmed, fast, designed to photograph troop positions and infrastructure ahead of the Allied advance. It was not built for combat. Its protection was speed and altitude. At the controls was Antoine de Saint-Exupéry. By then, he was already known across continents for his writing. The Little Prince had been published the year before, but he was not flying as an author. He was flying as a reconnaissance officer in the Free French Air Force. He was also 44 years old, older than most operational pilots, and had previously been grounded for medical reasons after multiple injuries. He had argued to return to flight status. He had insisted. The mission that morning was routine, a photographic survey over the Rhône Valley before the planned Allied landings in southern France. He never returned. There was no confirmed distress call, no radio message indicating mechanical failure. Radar tracking at the time was limited and fragmented. When he failed to reappear over Corsica, uncertainty began almost immediately. Possibilities emerged quickly: mechanical malfunction, spatial disorientation, enemy interception, fuel miscalculation. Wartime skies were crowded and chaotic. Days passed, no confirmed sighting, no debris. Unlike earlier eras of aviation, this was not an ocean crossing into empty space. This was wartime Europe. Allied and Axis forces filled the air. Coastal observers watched the Mediterranean constantly, yet the aircraft simply failed to return. For decades, his disappearance carried a dual weight. It was both military loss and literary absence. Speculation accumulated. Some suggested German fighters. Others imagined technical failure at altitude. There were even rumors of deliberate self-destruction, though no evidence supported them. The sky kept its distance. Then, in 1998, a fisherman near Marseille recovered a silver bracelet from his nets. It bore Saint-Exupéry's name. 2 years later, divers located fragments of a Lockheed P-38 in waters off the French coast. Serial numbers confirmed the aircraft. The discovery closed one question. The plane had fallen into the Mediterranean. It did not close the others. No conclusive evidence established whether he was shot down, suffered mechanical failure, or lost control at altitude. Wartime records are incomplete. German pilot claims remain debated. The wreckage did not offer a clear narrative. By 1944, aviation possessed radar, structured reconnaissance units, coordinated command systems. Yet even within organized military airspace, disappearance was still possible. Technology had advanced, uncertainty had not. On December 15, 1944, a small Nordwin Norseman lifted from RAF Twinwood Farm in Bedfordshire and turned south toward the English Channel. Its destination was Paris. The aircraft was not crossing an ocean. It was not pushing a boundary of aviation. It was a short transfer flight, the kind made daily between England and liberated France in the final winter of the war. On board was Glenn Miller, one of the most recognizable bandleaders in the United States. During the war, he had reorganized his career around military service, leading the Army Air Force's band and performing for Allied troops across Europe. His music was familiar to soldiers in camps, hospitals, and airfields. By December 1944, he was preparing to coordinate performances in Paris, newly freed from occupation. The crossing should have taken little more than an hour. Weather conditions that afternoon were unsettled. Cold air passed over relatively warmer channel waters, creating icing conditions at lower altitudes. Pilots operating that day reported heavy cloud layers and poor visibility. The Norseman, a single-engine utility aircraft, was reliable in normal conditions but not designed for severe icing accumulation. The plane departed in the early afternoon. It did not arrive in France. No confirmed distress call was logged, and ground stations recorded no emergency transmission along the route. Radar coverage in 1944, though improved, was not continuous at low altitude over the channel. In the days that followed, search efforts focused on projected flight paths. The channel, despite its narrowness, is deep, cold, and heavily trafficked. Winter currents and wartime traffic complicate recovery operations. Several explanations were proposed. Carburetor icing may have caused sudden engine failure. Structural icing may have compromised lift. A later hypothesis suggested that the Norseman could have been struck by bombs jettisoned by returning RAF bombers unable to land with full payloads over England. That claim, raised decades later, remains debated and unproven. No verified wreckage was ever recovered, and no confirmed crash site was established. What remains is a gap between departure and expectation. By late 1944, aviation operated within coordinated military frameworks. Radar stations monitored airspace. Communication protocols were standardized. Flights between England and France were routine. Yet even in organized wartime skies, a small aircraft could disappear without spectacle. Weather, altitude, timing, sometimes that is enough. Even the narrowest stretch of water offered no guarantees. By the middle of the 20th century, flight had crossed oceans, connected empires, and supported global war. Aircraft grew stronger. Navigation improved. Radar spread across coastlines. Yet none of it eliminated uncertainty. In each case, departure was routine. The calculations were sound, the aircraft capable, the men experienced. And still, there were moments when distance, weather, or timing proved enough. No spectacle, no final words, no clear answer. Only the space between takeoff and return, and what can disappear inside it.